Beneath the shroud of time, there exist places where echoes of innocence are tangled with shadows of despair, forgotten orphanages, their names erased, their walls decaying, their stories left to rot in silence. Picture this, an ancient building standing alone, its structure crumbling under the weight of secrets never meant to be uncovered. The flicker of a lantern light breaks the darkness, casting dancing shadows on walls carved with the desperate marks of children lost to history. Whispers seem to linger in the air, faint, chilling, as though the voices of those long gone are still pleading to be heard. These orphanages, once sanctuaries for the abandoned, became something far more sinister, facades for unspeakable horrors, their truths buried in lost records and scattered fragments of the past. But tonight we pull back the veil. We step into the heart of the forgotten, the unsettling. What happened within these halls? What secrets were scratched out or hidden away? And most disturbingly, how many stories were lost forever, erased except for the whispers that refuse to be silenced? Stay with us as we uncover the chilling truths and forgotten tales that history dared not record. Now turning to the origin of Ravenswood Orphanage, we uncover its beginnings in the late 1800s, nestled in a remote village of England where cobblestone paths wound through misty hills. Ravenswood was born from noble intentions, envisioned as a sanctuary for children abandoned by circumstance. Its grand stone facade, with ivy creeping up its walls, stood as a beacon of hope for the desperate and destitute. Behind its doors, laughter once echoed through the corridors as staff dedicated themselves to providing the children with food, shelter, and education. At its heart was Mr. Alaric Vaughn, the enigmatic benefactor whose generosity brought Ravenswood to life. His fortune, though vast and freely given, was cloaked in speculation. Whispers across the village spoke of trade routes paved with misfortune, dealings in far-flung places that left many questioning the true source of his wealth. Yet, to the face of the public, he was a hero, a savior to those society had cast aside. As the years passed, Ravenswood's reputation soared, celebrated for its tireless efforts to care for the forgotten. But beneath its glossy veneer, subtle cracks began to form, hinting at a darkness waiting to seep through. The warmth that once defined the orphanage started to fade. It was as though the building itself, with its imposing stone walls and creaking wooden floors, began to carry the weight of secrets too heavy to remain hidden. What was once a place of protection and promise would soon become a breeding ground for despair, a transformation that no one could have foreseen. And yet, the signs were there, buried in the shadows, waiting for someone to unravel them. Now turning to the mystery of the Vaughn Ledger, we find ourselves unraveling one of Ravenswood Orphanage's most perplexing enigmas. This ledger, a thick tome bound in worn leather, was said to hold the very essence of the orphanage's history. Within its pages were the names and origins of every child who passed through Ravenswood's doors, meticulous details of their arrivals and departures, and records of the finances that kept the institution running. To those who knew of its existence, it was more than just a document. It was the lifeblood of Ravenswood, a comprehensive account of its operations and its secrets. Yet, in the year 1925, the Vaughn Ledger inexplicably disappeared. One day, it sat securely in the main office, and the next, it was gone without a trace. The loss of the ledger left a chasm in Ravenswood's already uneasy history. Without it, countless questions about the orphanage's past would remain unanswered. Theories quickly swirled, each more troubling than the last. Some whispered of embezzlement, suggesting that someone within the orphanage quietly siphoned funds and erased the evidence by stealing the ledger. Others believed that the truth went deeper, implicating Mr. Alaric Vaughn himself in a web of bribery or exploitation. Darker still were the murmurs of motives unspoken, tying the ledger's disappearance to the orphanage's growing list of grim rumors. Could the ledger have exposed unthinkable deeds, perhaps involving the children Ravens would claim to protect? The more one pondered its vanishing, the more sinister the possibilities became. What remains undeniable is the void left behind by its absence. The ledger was Ravenswood's map of accountability, its compass of transparency, and without it, the shadows surrounding the orphanage only grew. This unsettling event marks the beginning of a pattern, a trail of lost records and hidden truths that would come to define Ravenswood's descent into darkness. Moving forward into the haunting tale of Evelyn Lockhart, we uncover one of the most chilling and heart-wrenching legends tied to Ravenswood Orphanage. Evelyn was just 6 years old when she arrived in the winter of 1903. Her small frame wrapped in a ragged blanket and clutching a wooden doll with faded paint. Her parents were never identified, and she was brought to Ravenswood by a stranger who left no name and no explanation. Evelyn was described as an unusually quiet child with large, haunting eyes that seemed to observe more than they should. From the start, she struggled to fit in, often playing alone in the shadowy corners of the orphanage, while the other children laughed and ran through the halls. Whispers began spreading among the staff and children about Evelyn's peculiar habits. She was said to hum melodies that no one recognized and speak to someone who, to everyone else, was invisible. Some staff members even reported finding her staring at empty walls, her voice low as if in conversation. It was during these moments that the temperature in the room was said to drop inexplicably, leaving anyone nearby with an unsettling chill. The children, frightened by her odd behavior, began avoiding her, and Evelyn's isolation deepened. This eerie cycle continued until one stormy night in the spring of 1907. The wind howled through the orphanage, rattling the windows and extinguishing the lanterns. When morning came, Evelyn was nowhere to be found. A frantic search of the orphanage grounds turned up nothing, and no one saw her leave. The only trace left behind was the wooden doll she once held so dearly, sitting upright on her empty bed, its painted eyes fixed on the doorway. Over the years, Evelyn's name would resurface in the brittle ledgers of Ravenswood, but never in the way one might expect. Her name would appear and disappear without explanation, scratched out and rewritten, as if the records themselves were haunted by her memory. A century later, her spirit is said to linger within the orphanage walls. Visitors have reported hearing the soft hum of a forgotten melody echoing down the halls. Others swear they catch glimpses of a small figure, clutching a wooden doll, standing in the shadows before vanishing into thin air. Whether these sightings are real or figments of the imagination, the story of Evelyn Lockhart remains an enduring mystery, a testament to the darkness that seems to envelop Ravenswood at every turn. As her story fades into the whispers of history, it leaves us with a chilling question. Was Evelyn ever truly gone, or does she remain bound to the orphanage that became her only home? Moving forward, we step into the ominous presence of Agatha Thorn, the headmistress who ruled Ravenswood Orphanage during its darkest years. Known for her stern demeanor and piercing gaze, Agatha was a figure of both authority and dread. The children feared her deeply, but it was not just her strict discipline that unnerved them. It was something far more sinister. Survivors of Ravenswood staff described her as a woman of few words, her commands delivered in an icy tone that left no room for defiance. She enforced a regimented order within the orphanage, but her punishments were said to go far beyond what anyone would deem acceptable. Whispers spread of children being locked away for days in a cramped, windowless room as punishment, their cries echoing faintly through the cold stone walls. Yet it was not merely her harshness that cast a shadow over Ravenswood. Agatha Thorn was often seen wandering the orphanage late at night, candle in hand, disappearing into a small, locked room at the end of a rarely used hallway. This room, shrouded in mystery, became the center of chilling rumors. Some claimed it was where Agatha practiced dark rituals, her low chants resonating through the floorboards while shadows flickered against the walls. Others believed it was a place where she kept secrets too grim to imagine. One former staff member, speaking in hushed tones many years later, recounted how they had once stumbled upon her inside the room, surrounded by strange symbols drawn on the floor, her hands clutching an old, leather-bound book. When their eyes met, the staff member felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if her gaze could pierce straight through to their soul. Reports from the children of Ravenswood added further layers to the unease. They spoke of hearing whispers in the dark when no one else was there, and seeing faint outlines of a figure watching them from the end of the dormitory halls. Even after Agatha Thorn's tenure ended abruptly in the early 1900s, following a series of child disappearances, her influence on the orphanage seemed to linger. It was as though her very presence had seeped into the stone of the building itself, leaving behind a chilling trace that could never be erased. To this day, visitors to the abandoned Ravenswood Orphanage claim they feel an unseen force watching them, a heavy, suffocating sensation that has driven more than one explorer to flee. While many of the orphanage secrets remain buried, Agatha Thorn's story continues to haunt those who dare to uncover it. What drove her to such cruelty, and what truly took place within the confines of her hidden room? With her shadow looming over Ravenswood's history, her sinister legacy leaves us with far more questions than answers. As we delve deeper into the secrets of Ravenswood, the darkness beneath its surface grows ever more unsettling. With the next phase of the journey in sight, we uncover a chilling revelation that came to light decades after Ravenswood Orphanage had shuttered its doors. In the 1980s, during what was intended to be a routine renovation of the crumbling structure, construction workers stumbled upon something that no one could have anticipated. Beneath the orphanage lay a hidden network of tunnels, a discovery that would send shockwaves through investigators and echo the lingering whispers of Ravenswood's grim past. These tunnels, narrow and dimly lit even with modern equipment, stretched far beneath the building, their walls etched with cryptic symbols that no one could immediately decipher. Scattered throughout this underground maze were items that seemed frozen in time, broken toys with missing eyes, small shoes coated in layers of dust, and fragments of personal belongings that spoke volumes of the young lives that once occupied the orphanage above. The deeper the workers ventured, the more sinister the discoveries became, sparking speculation about the true purpose of these tunnels. Some believed they were escape routes, desperate attempts by children to flee the confines of Ravenswood and its infamous headmistress, Agatha Thorn. Others theorized a much darker explanation, that these tunnels were integral to Agatha's secretive activities, perhaps even a site for the mysterious rituals she was rumored to partake in. The carvings on the walls were of particular interest, unfamiliar symbols intertwined with what appeared to be names, faintly inscribed as though by a trembling hand. Could these names belong to the very children who had vanished so many years ago? Investigators of the era, though limited by the technology of the time, found themselves unable to provide definitive answers. A sense of dread seemed to permeate the air within the tunnels, described by some as an almost tangible weight pressing down upon anyone who entered. Those who set foot in this underground labyrinth often emerged visibly shaken, claiming they had heard faint whispers or felt sudden, inexplicable chills. For others, the sight of a child's tattered teddy bear or a long-forgotten book of nursery rhymes left behind was enough to haunt their thoughts for weeks. The discovery reignited public interest in Ravenswood's dark history, leading many to revisit the lingering questions surrounding the orphanage's missing children. Could these tunnels hold the key to their fates? Were they places of refuge for the helpless, or were they instead used to conceal unspeakable acts? As more details of the hidden network surfaced, one thing became increasingly clear: whatever had occurred within those tunnels was far from ordinary. Their existence added another layer of fear and intrigue to the already harrowing tale of Ravenswood Orphanage. Even today, those brave enough to enter the tunnels beneath Ravens would speak of an overwhelming sense of sorrow, as though the walls themselves are imbued with the memories of those who once crawled through them. The unanswered questions about their purpose and origins continue to fuel speculation, leaving us to wonder just how many more secrets Ravenswood Orphanage might be hiding. As we emerge from the shadowy depths of these tunnels, another discovery lies ahead, one that may bring us closer to understanding the lives of the children who called Ravenswood home. With the next phase of the journey in sight, we turn our attention to another haunting discovery that emerged long after Ravenswood Orphanage fell silent. Decades after its closure, amidst the dust and decay of the forgotten building, an old trunk was uncovered in a hidden storage room tucked behind a crumbling wall. Within this unassuming chest lay a collection of letters, fragile and yellowed with age, written in the shaky hands of children who once called Ravenswood their home. These letters, long buried and silenced, offered a rare and poignant glimpse into the lives of those who lived within the orphanage shadowed walls. The writings were simple yet deeply emotional, their words often misspelled, but laced with the raw, unfiltered feelings of children trying to make sense of their world. One letter spoke of a young girl named Clara who wrote, "Miss my sister so much. They say she left, but I hear her crying at night." Another letter, found folded tightly and hidden in the seam of the trunk, read, "Tom's gone today. They say he is placed. I don't think he is. They take them at night." The sense of fear and confusion in these letters was unmistakable, amplifying the unsettling atmosphere that surrounds Ravenswood's legacy. Many of the letters expressed their longing for freedom, for family, and for answers. Others hinted at the suspicions the children had about the disappearances of their friends and the ominous behavior of the orphanage staff. Some letters contained chilling drawings, simple stick figures with hollow eyes, standing next to a tall figure cloaked in darkness, often accompanied by strange markings similar to the symbols found in the tunnels. The discovery of these letters added a deeply personal layer to the mystery. While the records of Ravenswood had always been sparse and fragmented, these writings brought the faceless victims to life, giving names and stories to the children who had long been overshadowed by the orphanage's dark reputation. The letters painted a picture of resilience and desperation, as though the children had used these scraps of paper as their only outlet to express their fears and hopes. Some historians believe these letters may hold more than just emotional weight. Among the simple expressions of longing and confusion, certain patterns began to emerge. Phrases that were repeated across multiple letters seemed almost too deliberate to be coincidental. Some of the odd symbols drawn alongside the notes also bore a striking resemblance to the carvings found in the tunnels. This sparked speculation that the letters might contain coded messages, desperate attempts by the children to leave behind clues for anyone who might one day uncover the truth hidden within Ravenswood Orphanage. The letters remain one of the most heart-wrenching remnants of Ravenswood's history, their fragile pages now preserved yet still shrouded in unanswered questions. Who were these children, and what did they truly experience within those walls? Were their suspicions about the disappearances accurate, and could the symbols in their letters unlock the secrets of the orphanage? As these delicate fragments of the past continue to be studied, their existence serves as both a haunting reminder and an enduring call to uncover the full story. As we pause to reflect on the voices of these lost children, a chilling question lingers in the air: what other remnants of Ravenswood's past are waiting to be uncovered? Now turning to the foreboding lore that has enveloped Ravenswood Orphanage, we find ourselves confronting the chilling rumors of a curse. Locals from the nearby village speak in hushed tones about the sinister energy that seems to hang over the crumbling ruins, warning curious visitors to stay far away. It is said that those who have dared to explore the orphanage often find themselves plagued by unexplainable misfortunes upon their return: car accidents, sudden illnesses, or a string of bad luck that seems too uncanny to dismiss. For many, these ominous tales are enough to deter them from ever stepping foot on the property. Among the brave, or perhaps foolish, are ghost hunters and urban explorers who have ventured into the shadowed halls of Ravenswood. Their accounts only deepen the mystery. Several have reported hearing faint, anguished cries echoing through empty corridors, or catching fleeting glimpses of small figures darting just out of sight. Some describe the sensation of being followed, turning around only to find the hallway behind them empty. Others have reported encountering the apparition of a woman in an old-fashioned uniform, her eyes dark and her presence heavy with a suffocating dread. Could this be Agatha Thorn, the feared matron whose legend still lingers? Many visitors have also documented unexplained phenomena with their equipment. Devices recording sudden drops in temperature, electromagnetic spikes with no discernible source, and distorted voices whispering through audio recordings. One particularly chilling story involves a group of explorers who claim to have seen writing appear in the dust on a shattered mirror. A single word: leave. They fled the orphanage that night, abandoning their gear, and swore never to return. But it is not just what is seen or heard that fuels the sense of unease. The old building itself seems to resist those who enter. Footsteps echo unnaturally, shadows flicker where no light exists, and certain rooms seem to emanate an oppressive, almost physical force that drives people away. Those who have spent extended time within Ravenswood would often recount vivid nightmares for days afterward, dreams of children crying out for help or being lost in endless, twisting hallways. What remains most haunting, however, is how seamlessly these chilling accounts align with the unresolved history of Ravenswood. Could the apparitions be the restless spirits of the children who vanished, unable to move on until their stories are told? Are the strange phenomena tied to the hidden symbols and the ominous tunnels beneath the orphanage, or does the curse of Ravenswood run even deeper, tethered to the mysterious benefactor and the dark secrets buried within its lost records? As these eerie occurrences continue to surface, one cannot help but feel the weight of unfinished business tied to Ravenswood Orphanage. Each whispered story, each unexplained event, only adds another layer to the haunting mystery that surrounds this forgotten place. And with every step closer to understanding its past, the orphanage seems to resist, as though its secrets are not ready to be revealed. Yet the question lingers: what price will need to be paid to uncover the truth of Ravenswood's shadowed legacy? With the next phase of the journey in sight, we turn our attention to the few surviving official records that have emerged from Ravenswood Orphanage's shadowed past. Among these fragments are a fragile ledger from 1918 and a matron's diary dated 1910, both of which offer unsettling glimpses into the day-to-day operations of a place cloaked in secrecy. Though damaged and incomplete, these records reveal more than what was ever publicly acknowledged, painting a picture far grimmer than the orphanage's benevolent facade would suggest. The 1918 ledger, for instance, contains detailed lists of children admitted to Ravenswood, alongside dates of birth, arrival, and supposed departures. Yet curiously, several entries are marked only with the word "removed" in the departure column, with no further explanation. There are no notes of adoption, transfer, or even death, just that one chilling word. This term, repeated across different pages, raises poignant questions. Removed to where, by whom, and most disturbingly, why? The matron's diary from 1910 is equally unsettling. Within its faded pages, written in sharp, exact handwriting, are accounts that alternate between mundane musings about daily routines and cryptic, almost coded entries. One particularly jarring passage refers to the need to maintain order in times of disobedience, and mentions unnamed guests visiting Ravenswood late at night, though no details of these visitors are provided. Another entry chillingly states, "The quiet ones are the easiest to prepare," without any context to clarify what this preparation entailed. The callous tone of these entries starkly contrasts with the public image of Ravenswood as a sanctuary for vulnerable children. Even more troubling are the discrepancies between these records and the official narrative that had been carefully presented to the public. Ravenswood's history, as told through the lens of local authorities, described a charitable institution overwhelmed by resources and goodwill, a safe haven for those without a home. And yet the ledger and diary suggest negligence at best and calculated malevolence at worst. For every child who is noted to have been adopted, there are several more whose fates are either ambiguous or conspicuously absent. The gaps in these documents seem almost deliberate, as if someone had gone to great lengths to obscure the truth. These fragments leave haunting impressions, but they also spark an unsettling realization. What else might have been destroyed, hidden, or erased entirely? Are these surviving documents mere accidents of history, overlooked in a hasty cover-up, or do they exist as intentional clues left behind by someone on the inside? A silent plea to expose the darkness concealed within Ravenswood's walls. As we delve into the mysteries of the ledger and the diary, the possibility that these relics hold vital keys to unraveling Ravenswood's most sinister secrets cannot be ignored. The deeper we search, the more questions arise, and with each cryptic entry or missing detail, an uneasy sensation grows stronger. It is as though Ravenswood itself is taunting those who seek its truth, daring them to uncover what it has kept hidden for over a century. Yet, with every unspoken answer, the weight of its legacy becomes clearer. What horrors might still come to light if these records are only the beginning? Moving forward, we edge ever closer to the heart of Ravenswood's darkness, where the boundaries between history and horror begin to blur. With the next phase of the journey in sight, the shadowy truths of Ravenswood's history begin to sharpen, converging on two pivotal figures, Agatha Thorn, the unyielding matron, and Mr. Alaric Vaughn, the enigmatic benefactor whose wealth breathed life into the orphanage's creation. What seemed at first like mere rumors and conjecture about their roles now takes on a far graver tone as the missing ledger, cryptic diary entries, and other fragments of evidence begin to weave a chilling tapestry of exploitation and secrecy. Their carefully constructed facades of benevolence and authority start to crumble under the weight of these discoveries, revealing something far more sinister. Agatha Thorn's tyranny, as recorded by surviving orphans and staff, was not merely a matter of strict discipline. The accounts of her punishments, often described as excessively harsh, now seem to have been part of a calculated effort to break the will of those in her care. The diary entries attributed to her reveal a stark duality between her public demeanor and private thoughts. Mentions of quiet ones and preparations may be vague, but when paired with the recurring theme of late-night visits from unnamed guests, their implications become deeply unsettling. It is no longer possible to dismiss these strange occurrences as isolated or harmless. Meanwhile, Mr. Vaughn, often depicted as a shadowy benefactor whose wealth built Ravenswood, emerges as an equally troubling figure. Rumors about the source of his fortune, tales of dealings with fringe societies, and whispers of unspeakable rituals persisted among locals even during his lifetime. While these stories were long regarded as folklore, the resurfacing of certain documents challenges this perception. One particularly damning piece of evidence is a financial record linking Ravenswood to mysterious, sporadic withdrawals from Vaughn's accounts, labeled only as special provisions. These funds correlate with the timeline of certain disappearances noted in the ledger. What were these provisions meant to procure, and why do they coincide with children marked only as removed or never listed at all? Piecing together these elements unveils an unthinkable possibility that the orphanage operations may have served as a cover for something far more nefarious. Patterns within the remaining records suggest not only financial exploitation, but also human trafficking. While direct evidence remains elusive, the fragmented information we do have, the sudden disappearances, the late-night visitors, the ambiguous financial transactions, paints a haunting picture of a secretive network operating under the guise of charity. And then there are the symbols etched into the walls of the underground tunnels, suggesting ties to clandestine practices that pushed beyond the boundaries of morality and reason. The connections between Thorn and Vaughn also become harder to ignore, though their association was publicly framed as a partnership rooted in mutual philanthropy. Their synchronized actions tell another story. Thorn's stringent control over the orphanage's daily operations paired seamlessly with Vaughn's financial influence and rumored affiliations, creating a grim synergy that fostered an environment of unchecked authority and secrecy. Was Thorn merely a pawn in Vaughn's larger scheme, or did her own ambitions lead her willingly into his dark enterprise? The evidence hints at a shared complicity, bound by motives we may never fully understand. As this revelation unfolds, it forces one to re-evaluate every detail of Ravenswood Orphanage's facade, the haunting realization that what was once thought of as a sanctuary for the vulnerable was, at its core, a machine of exploitation and horror, shakes the foundation of the story. Victims have remained nameless for decades, their suffering hidden beneath layers of deception. Whatever their ultimate fates, it is clear that these children were viewed not as lives to be cherished, but as commodities within a cruel and calculated system. The true nature of Agatha Thorn and Mr. Alaric Vaughn's ambitions calls into question everything previously known about Ravenswood. This is no longer merely a story of a failing institution, but one of deliberate malice, orchestrated by figures who mask their sinister intentions behind roles of trust and authority. As the pieces of this grim puzzle fall into place, the darkness of Ravenswood's legacy grows undeniable, bringing us ever closer to the heart of its deepest and most horrifying secrets. As the sun rises on the next chapter, the fragmented pieces of Ravenswood's story begin to align, forming a grim but coherent picture of what may have truly transpired within its shadowed walls. The fate of Evelyn Lockhart, the tunnels beneath the orphanage, and the cryptic Vaughn Ledger all seem to intertwine, their threads converging on a singular, chilling possibility. Evelyn, the forgotten girl whose name was scratched from the records, may have been more than an unfortunate casualty of neglect. Her disappearance during that stormy night, coupled with whispers of the matron's preparations, suggests she might have been central to the rituals rumored to surround Vaughn's wealth. Could she have been one among many, chosen for reasons lost to time, but tied to the sinister symbols etched into the tunnels below? The tunnels themselves tell a story no living person can. Built far beneath the surface, they were perhaps never meant to be discovered. The scattered toys and cryptic carvings speak to an eerie duality of innocence trapped in a labyrinth of secrecy and despair. Experts have speculated that these symbols may have connections to occult practices, further implicating Vaughn in a network operating far outside the bounds of conventional morality. These underground passages also provide a chilling link to the sudden disappearances noted in the orphanage's fragile records, some of which simply listed children as removed. Were these tunnels an escape route for desperate children, or something much darker, a pathway to their ultimate fate? Then there is the Vaughn Ledger. While its complete contents remain a mystery, surviving fragments hold enough weight to shake even the strongest resolve. Financial entries labeled as special provisions and transport logistics coincide too closely with known dates of disappearances to dismiss. These transactions, coupled with Thorn's diary entries, hint at a well-organized operation involving not only the orphanage's benefactor, but possibly external collaborators. The missing portions of the ledger may forever conceal the full scope of these activities, but what remains casts a long shadow over Ravenswood's supposedly charitable mission. What becomes undeniable is the orchestrated nature of these horrors. The testimonies of surviving orphans though fragmented and decades old, paint a consistent picture of a place where children were seen less as individuals and more as resources for ambitions cloaked in secrecy. Agatha Thorn's punishments, Vaughn's unexplained wealth, and the eerie symbols beneath the orphanage all point toward a hidden purpose that served only those in power. Evelyn Lockhart's story, though one of many, crystallizes the tragedy of Ravenswood, a child whose life was erased for motives that remain incomprehensible. And so, Ravenswood Orphanage ceases to be merely a cautionary tale of negligence. It becomes a harrowing reminder of what happens when unchecked authority and hidden agendas intersect. The haunting reality is that the children who entered its gates, seeking refuge, may have instead stumbled into a machine of exploitation, deeper and darker than anyone could have imagined. As these revelations take shape, one final question lingers: how many more forgotten places like Ravens would remain, their secrets waiting to be uncovered? As the story of Ravenswood Orphanage concludes, one cannot help but linger on the weight of its haunting legacy. What began as a sanctuary for the abandoned and the vulnerable slowly unraveled into a grim tapestry of exploitation, secrecy, and despair. The lives of countless children were forever altered, their voices silenced, their stories buried beneath layers of neglect and malevolence. Evelyn Lockhart's tragic tale stands as a symbol of the countless others whose names have been lost to time, their fates sealed by forces they could neither comprehend nor escape. The tunnels, the fragments of the Vaughn ledger, and the cryptic symbols etched into the very foundation of the orphanage all point to an orchestrated darkness that preyed upon the powerless. Yet, perhaps the most chilling aspect of this tale is the knowledge that Ravenswood is likely not an anomaly. How many other forgotten places hold similar secrets, their stories hidden in the crumbling walls and faded records of history? Reflecting on Ravenswood's past compels us to confront an uncomfortable truth. It is not just the physical decay of these places that must be remembered, but the lives that were lived and lost within them. Preserving and uncovering these histories is more than an act of curiosity. It is an act of honoring those who were overlooked, ensuring that their stories, however painful, are not erased. For in remembering, we give justice to those who had none and shine a light on the shadows where such tragedies might still linger. As we part from this unsettling chapter, take a moment to consider the questions and possibilities it leaves behind. What do you think truly happened within the walls of Ravenswood Orphanage? Could there be more to uncover in its story, or in others like it, waiting to be found? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. We would love to hear your take on these haunting mysteries. If this journey into Ravenswood has captivated you, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another tale from the shadows of history. The forgotten stories are still out there, waiting to be told,